Hey guys, welcome back to the Redeemed Marriage Podcast and our Christmas special of the 12 Days of Questions, and this is day number 7. So we're over halfway there, and I think one thing we've learned from this is that we talk too much.
Yeah, they're all too long.
Yeah, sorry. So we're going to talk really fast on this one. Okay, answer the question. Ask the question. Go, hurry.
Okay, the question, and this is a very timely question. It says, how do you divide holiday time between both sides of families while creating your own family traditions?
All right, You start.
Okay, I'll start. So one thing I wanted to say is it is very important that you put your family first and your family traditions first. So we call it our 4 family. That's just because it's me and Rusty, Luke, and Logan. And so when I say something about our 4 family, that's just the 4 of us. And we have to put our 4 family and our 4 family traditions before our extended family. And that's hard to do because the wife is coming in with all of her traditions and expectations for Christmas, and the husband is coming in with all of his expectations and all of his traditions. And so at first it's not that hard because it's just the 2 of you, but then kids start coming in and you're trying to make things special for them, and you're pulling in some of each of the things, and that
grandparents definitely want to see their grandchildren.
That's right. And so it gets more difficult, and we totally understand it. It's not a real cookie cutter answer though, because nobody's family is cookie cutter. We live in a place where all the grandparents live here in this same town with us, but that's very rare. And I actually thought that was going to be easier because we were like, oh, well, we're all right here, but it makes it more difficult because on Christmas morning we do our 4 family Christmas, and then traditionally we go over to my parents and do it with my side of the family, and then go over to your side of the family and do it there, and it's a lot for one day. It's exhausting. But then we have, family members or friends that do Christmas Eve with one side of the family and Christmas Day with the other. So there's so many different ways that this can happen. And you have times where grandparents are out of town. And so it's like, how do we pick which one we go and visit? Or do we go at all? Or do we have them come to us? There's so many ways that can happen. So what my suggestion would be for that is to, like I've said, always put your 4 family or 6 family or 5 family or whatever family you have first, and those traditions first. So you have to make sure that the things that you want for your children to remember, you make that priority, and you make the cookies among your family, and you do all of the traditions, picking out the tree and all of that. But then you sit down as a couple and decide what the rest of it's going to look like.
Yeah. And it's funny because this morning at church, one of our staff members actually we were talking about our videos, and he said, have y'all gotten some good questions? And I said, yeah. I said, and we got one coming up about spending time, where are you going to be on the holidays and how do you spend time with family and stuff? And he said, oh, well, that's easy. You learn how to say no. And I was like, well, that's easier said than done. But I said, well, what are y'all going to do? And it's just him and his wife. They're fairly newlyweds. And he said, well, we're not going anywhere. He said, and one of the family members lives here and the other one's out of town. And he said, we're just going to stay at home all day. And and that's okay too. But I did like that he said, and not being ugly, but you do maybe have to learn to say no on some things. But I have a practical example. I've kind of always got the steps in place and the practical example. So my suggestion is this: communicate with your spouse, because here's the thing. It is very likely that your spouse has different expectations than you do.
Sure.
And that makes it even harder.
That's right.
So my suggestion would be plan a date night. We've been pushing the date night thing, so plan a date night. After Christmas, it's probably too late at this point.
That's right.
But after Christmas, go sit down and let you tell your spouse kind of what your perfect scenario is for Christmas, and let your spouse do the same thing. And then together, you kind of know what your expectations are. And then maybe you start planning way far in advance. And because if there's a situation where you need to tell some grandparents, you're not having to reject their plan or tell them no. It's you're making plans, and maybe it's you're doing what you want to do this year and what your spouse wants to do the next year, but you're carving out enough time to where you're not hurting a lot of feelings.
That's right.
Where you're able to say, hey, Christmas is a really stressful time for our family, and so this next year we're going to do this because this is just something that we need. And if you do that far enough in advance, I think that people will respect that. So
That's right.
So that's kind of my practical step in this process. Sit down with your spouse and just see if you can get on the same page and plan it far enough in advance. And maybe it's that you go on a vacation if you can afford it, and that way you're just kind of out of the picture. And I don't know. Those are just some things that you can think through, but definitely communicate and get on the same page.
And making sure that it's your spouse's expectations and your expectations, and not expectations that are coming down from grandparents. You don't ever want to say, well, we're going to go here on Christmas because that's what my parents want us to do. It needs to be the decision of the two spouses.
Decide together.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And you know what? This goes without saying, and I know COVID has made this an exceedingly hard year for everybody, but let's just take a minute and be thankful that you have family to spend this holiday with, because there are so many people right now that have lost family members or are not able to be with their families. And sometimes it takes stepping back and saying, are we really getting upset about who we're going to spend Christmas with?
There's people actually fighting over spending time with us.
That's right.
And I mean, that's how we feel sometimes, but we forget to step back and take that big perspective and go, man, we have family. And there's a lot of people that just don't have any, they will literally spend Christmas alone.
That's right. So just taking time to be thankful, and then getting your family as priority one, and then just letting everything else fall into place. He's the practical one, and I'm like, it'll be fine. It's going to be fine.
Go on a date.
That's right.
Figure some stuff out. Make some plans. It's all good.
It's all good.
Thanks for watching. If you've got questions, I really think we need like one more.
Yep.
So if you've got a question you want to hear us answer.
Is tomorrow's heavy, or is the next day heavy?
Well, I mean, we get to choose what our questions are. We've got some ready. So
we've got some heavy ones, but then some fun ones too.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.